So I drove flatbed for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not many people actually know that right when South Dakota and North Dakota are kind of blowing up with the oil deal, about, what was that, 15 years ago, roughly?
Yeah.
I was like, cool, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go work in the oil field. I'm going to go make my 6 figures in the oil field. And that's what I set my mind on. But I ended up to that rodeo a little bit late, and everybody told me that I needed to go get my CDL and come back. So that's what I did. I got my CDL and started driving truck. And the game plan was to get a little bit of experience and then go back over there. And then I got offered an opportunity to buy well, he didn't own it currently, but my uncle owned a carpet cleaning franchise years and years ago when I was growing up. He sold it to a guy. That guy was interested in selling. So I bought a carpet cleaning franchise.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I've got a special guest on, Brandon Richardson. He is a pilot, and he is also the founder of Deal Manager Pro, and he is the best in the business, in my opinion, and I follow him on Facebook because I'm a pilot myself. I love seeing other pilots out here doing their dream, flying around. So, Brandon, let's get right into it. Tell my audience who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are, man.
Cool, man. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Again, my name is Brandon Richards. Currently, my wife and I, we live in Flagstaff, Arizona. We bought the Deal Manager Pro, the real estate CRM, last year as kind of like a bolt-on for cash flow purposes, really. And then our main business is it's a real estate investment firm where we buy land in 3 states. Right now, we're in Arizona, Utah, and Alaska. And then here locally in Flagstaff, we'll do a little bit of, I guess you can consider it development. We place double wide manufactured homes. And then we do flips every once in a while. Not too keen on them anymore. There's been too many issues, and they're just a giant pain in the butt. And then, of course, being a lead generation business, we wholesale a little bit. So we wholesale everything from land, flips, mobile home parks, motels, restaurants. I mean, I've wholesaled just about everything. But haven't always done that. So we've been in the investment space for about 10 years. When we were first getting into it, I was just getting out of a small stint in driving 18-wheelers. So I drove flatbed for 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not many people actually know that right when South Dakota and North Dakota are kind of blowing up with the oil deal, about, what was that, 15 years ago, roughly?
Yeah.
I was like, cool, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go work in the oil field. I'm going to go make my 6 figures in the oil field. And that's what I set my mind on. But I ended up to that rodeo a little bit late, and everybody told me that I needed to go get my CDL and come back. So that's what I did. I got my CDL and started driving truck. And the game plan was to get a little bit of experience and then go back over there. And then I got offered an opportunity to buy well, he didn't own it currently, but my uncle owned a carpet cleaning franchise years and years ago when I was growing up. He sold it to a guy. That guy was interested in selling. So I bought a carpet cleaning franchise, and I was owner operator, thinking I was making money, not knowing anything about running a business. And in reality, I wasn't making a whole lot of anything. And I was the guy taking the calls, doing the scheduling, doing the work, restocking the shelves, like everything, A to Z. And so when it was time for us to really make a move, it was like, you get online, you Google, well, how do you make money? What's the easiest side gig? All these Google terms, and they always ran to real estate, but I didn't know anything about real estate at that time. We had bought a personal residence, and that's about all I could afford, money wise and credit wise. So I was like, man, I'm never going to be a real estate investor because I don't have the money or credit. And that's when I ran into wholesaling. And then I made the poor mistake of getting my real estate license, thinking that was what I was supposed to do to get into real estate.
Yeah.
I figured all realtors just knew everything about real estate, and quickly found out that was not the case. Went to a investor friendly brokerage, learned some things there, did some wholesales or some JV wholesales, which was ultra beneficial, being able to have somebody there to walk me through first couple deals.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did my first direct to seller wholesale, made a killing on that one. And that was really like the catalyst to, well, shit, I think this might actually work for us. So right after wholesaling that particular buyer was also our private money lender. He lent on our next flip. And I guess the rest is history. We've done somewhere north of 70, 80 flips, a couple hundred wholesales. We've owned some apartments, uh, storage. But my favorite thing right now is the land, like I was saying. And so we'll
Yeah.
create, so we'll buy land and we'll create notes to an end retail buyer, and we'll service that note for somewhere between 10 and 15 years, depending on terms.
So you're purchasing the land and then you're also creating a note. So you're also doing the financing as well. So the owner financing, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We got our first taste of that back in Texas roughly 6, 7 years ago. I bought a really, really cheap mobile home that was on dirt. So it was real property, not personal property in a park. And bought that thing for 15,000. I sold it on payments over, I think, 20-year term, no balloon, no prepayment, all this, typical owner finance stuff for 1,000 with a small down payment. I don't remember all the numbers now, but it was the first, well, this is real cash flow. Owning rentals, we've had duplexes and everything between then and now. Whatever, you get it. So, so the rentals, you think you're making money. You got your underlying note. You think you're grossing 350, but by the time the year's up, after repairs, taxes, insurance, you might make 60, $150 a month, and that's all fine and dandy. And you get depreciation, and you can, lots of tax benefits. But what a nightmare owning an asset, having hundreds of thousands of dollars into a property, and still having to worry about those oh shit moments. Is when's that tenant going to call me and say, I can't afford it, my water heater went out, my toilet's clogged, whatever it is. And those calls came consistently for me, and I hated every moment of owning those rental properties. And so when we did that note, I was like, dude, why didn't I get in the notes earlier? And so, long story short, I didn't take too much action on the owner financing stuff right away. It was still hard for me to wrap my head around it, particularly on the underlying debt portion of it. But now that we're back in the land, that's all I do. I put them up on the MLS, and the very first line is owner financing, and that's the only offer I'll accept unless I don't get any owner finance offers, and we'll do a cash sale. But carrying the note is my favorite thing to do. It's real cash flow, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. I love that. And, so first let's back up to, you got your brokerage license to go sell real estate. My wife did the same. And I know I got brokers that listen to this channel as well. And I also have a lot of people that attend my Zooms weekly and also ask about mentorship. And they're like, Eddie, I want to get into owning real estate. I want to get into what you do. I probably need to go get my real estate license. I'm like, not unless you want to fight over a percentage of commission and split it with other brokers in the market. And if you're like our town, you're flooded with brokers. Everybody's fighting over a sale. Everybody's got a relationship with somebody. And it turns out to be a horrible experience. And the cool part is you don't need a license to do anything of what you're doing. The only nice part is you probably had access to the MLS. So you could probably find properties a little easier than the general public.
Right. Yeah, that was super beneficial in the beginning, because even now when we branch into new markets, I'm like, shoot, I got to go find a realtor. And there's a lot of softwares nowadays that you can run nationwide comps. Like within our CRM, we have nationwide comps in the disclosure states. So that's been, there's softwares that allow it to be easier. And there's certainly pros and cons to having a license. For me, I already had it, so I reaped the benefits of saving on the listing commissions. And if I ever bought anything on market, I was able to capitalize there, grab a buyer's compensation. The downside is, well, you got to disclose everything. You can't pay finder's fees in some states. They don't allow a licensed person to pay an unlicensed person. And there's some states are kind of pushing to make wholesaling illegal in some form or fashion without double closing or having a licensed person involved. So there are some benefits, but if I were to go back in time, I probably wouldn't have gone that route had I known. There's been cases where it has benefited me greatly. If you go to a house and you don't get an accepted cash offer and they have time, let's say it's a pre-foreclosure or a substitute trustee, it's pending in the next 45, 90 days to go to the courthouse steps, you could potentially list that and make a commission. So there's that. So you certainly have to weigh the differences. But if it were me, I probably wouldn't get my license again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we teach a lot of people to, use other people's money and buy large assets,
Yep.
40, 50 units and up. Assets that you can truly get asset managers to work for you and a property management company. So you kind of can be a hands-off CEO, CFO, COO, whatever you want to be in your company. But oftentimes, like when you bought the carpet business, if you're the only guy in the game and you don't have employees, everybody believes that you're this, entrepreneur, accomplished. I've certainly been there, and you're the business owner. And
Hmm.
essentially, you created yourself your own job. That's why I look to businesses that I can provide enough cash flow to pay employees and scale it to the point of selling it, because that's where I'm going to make my most return. Or I'll put in a CEO and let him manage it, and I'll just be a board of advisors.
Hmm.
But I think we all go down that path of like this painful path of certain things. And you're like, man, if I wish I would have known that, I wouldn't have bought this. And I love what you're doing because you're in the best position, which means the first position of lending. So, let's say worst case scenario, somebody banks out on a property, they lose their job, economy crashes for them, things go completely sideways. I'm sure being in first position, you have control to probably say, hey, this is unfortunate. If we can't work it out, taking my property back.
Right. Yeah. The first avenue is always, what's the problem? How can we solve it?
Sure.
Can we do some sort of forbearance? Can we do a loan modification? Which we've done specifically with that very first one. She stopped making payments for the longest time, so we did her loan modification. Ended up selling it anyways. Yeah, being in first position, that's the high security. And so when we are buying these land parcels, depending on the market value, we're offering between 40 and 60% of ARV. So our underlying basis is always so nominal that either their down payment covers it, or it's easy peasy for us to just throw it back on the MLS and get another buyer and collect more payments. Just get it rolling again.
Yeah. So, what size properties do you really like to buy?
Well, in the markets that we're in, these are typically 1 to 40 acres.
Okay. Okay. So, kind of roughly go through how you decided to go in that space over other spaces. Like, what was that aha moment for you?
It was cash flow. I mean, like I said, we had owned the rentals and we have since sold those. The storage went all right. But even on the worst days of owning that or being the lender on that small mobile home was nothing in comparison of how bad it was when something went wrong in our apartment complex. It was a smaller 15 unit. It was a great deal. I loved it from A to Z. I was able to get it owner financed. I brought in some private lenders, so I had zero money out of pocket. I had some rehab funds, and everything went great, except when it didn't. When I got those maintenance calls, and so when I was going back, through all of the things that I'd done and learned in the past, I was like, man, I don't know that I want to own single family anymore. Certainly don't want to own small multifamily. So moving forward, all of our multifamily is going to be 40 units plus. That way we have on-site management, the books are easier, the scale is easier. And then back to the land notes, they're just so easy. For example, all of our purchases are somewhere between 15 and 30,000 basis purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
I can go raise 15 or 30,000 from my neighbor. There's tons of people that have these small dollar amounts versus in the multifamily commercial space, you're looking for a minimum of 50 to $100,000 from a handful of people or more. So the scalability to me is a little bit easier. But really, when it came down to it, is I don't know if you can see in the back. This is a Nigerian mask. This is from Peru. This is from I don't know where my hand's at. This is from Peru. We do a lot of traveling, and I don't want to get random phone calls in the middle of my travel saying my water heater's out. Whatever it is, like the apartment complex, we had several people die of natural causes there. Don't like those phone calls.
No.
We had a massive 200-year-old oak tree fall down and basically demolish 4 of the units. So we went through this huge insurance deal. And, if you ever been through an insurance claim with multiple adjusters, you're just like, let's just end this right now. This is so dumb. We've had drug deals. Like these are all these things these are the phone calls you don't want to get when, like me and my buddy, we travel around the world. I'm sure you see on Facebook, we ride dirt bikes in a new country every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be ripping it through the Cambodian jungle and get a phone call saying my apartment complex burned down. You're not going to burn
100%.
down a piece of, yeah, you're not going to burn down a piece of land. And if they get disgruntled, they don't want to make payments, they're not going to pour dry concrete down my toilets. So that
Yeah.
we got to replumb the whole damn house.
Well, yeah.
So those are, I just, less headache is what I was looking for. And land is what gave me that.
Absolutely, man. It's always come down to the three T's. It's the toilets, the tenants, and the termites
Yep.
that just completely tear you up in small deals. And
Yeah.
that's why we really push people, hey, go a little bit bigger and, lean on older financing and stuff like that to get you a 40 unit deal. You can still do that and raise money from friends and family if you've got that network. Because at the end of the day, what are you chasing? We're chasing getting our time back, right? So everything you do, I'm sure at your age, you're close to my age, you're asking yourself, I'm about to do this deal. I don't really care about the money, but what's the amount of time that it's going to give me back this
Right.
year? So, what kind of income will this bring me with very little management to be able to travel more, do more things, take more people with me for a longer period of time? So, I want ultimately my time. The money is, of course, a component because of the competitive economy that we're in. But at the same time, I want my time. That's really all I'm doing, is buying back my time.
Right. There's certainly a lot of investors that do it for the game. I'm just not one of them. I know real estate very well, and it gets me what I want. It gets me the freedom. It gets me the vacations. It gets me the planes, the dirt bikes. It gets me what I want. I don't necessarily. I'm not in love with real estate. I just like the benefits of what it does for me.
Yeah, you love the business side of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
certainly.
Absolutely. So tell me, man, what got you into flying?
Dude, I mean, I was about to make a post on this because for me, like same thing with dirt bikes. As a kid, I'm in the back seat. We're driving somewhere. Doesn't matter where we are. Walmart, out of state, family vacation. I'm just gazing out the window. I'll see small planes. I'll just envision myself, riding in the ditch on my dirt bike. And so these are all things I had dreamt up as a kid. And those are all things that I thought were out of reach. Like I never had a dirt bike growing up. We didn't have that kind of money. A couple friends had some little crappy dirt bikes and crappy go-karts. And so I was able to enjoy theirs, but I never had these things that I wanted as a kid. And flying was one of them. And even to this day, I'm like, dude, there's so many levels in aviation. Like I have a decent plane, but you can have like it's infinite. But flying for me is freedom. Like there's not many things that I can step away from and forget all of my other problems and troubles. And that's dirt biking and flying. If I'm flying, dude, all of my senses are being used. I'm listening, I'm viewing, I'm smelling, I'm feeling the air. I'm like air pressure, the heat of the engine coming through the firewall. Like there's so many things being done at one time. I can't think about, well, this transaction is going slow. This due
Yeah,
diligence is almost up. Did I do everything? Like flying and dirt biking is the two things that just I can step away from reality for a minute and enjoy nature.
100%, man. You hit the nail on the head there. You got to have hobbies outside business. For a long time, everybody's like, what's your hobby? Business. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And, that was my hobby. I was my sport. And the more that the kingdom started to crumble, it was because I did nothing for my personal time. And that was the most important thing, was to go out here and fly and have fun. You're so right with the levels of aviation. I know for me, I want a Cessna 421. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that means I'm going to have to get IFR and twin engine rating and rated on that aircraft. And then, of course, you get into it. My flight instructor, he goes, Eddie, I know you love twin engines because your dad had them when you were growing up. You like the safety, the security of it. But if you're going to spend money, you might as well go fast. You might as well get a jet. And at the end of the day, it's going to take a lot more money to buy back that much time.
Yeah. 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 For me, I mean, a little Honda jet would be kind of cool just to get from A to Z quick. But my goal was to have my get there plane. So like a Cirrus or a Citation, not a Citation, a Vision jet or something small, something zippy to just to get me there. A small bush plane like what I got on my shirt and on my hat and everywhere, my tattoos. And then a helicopter. I flew
Yeah.
1 hour in a Robinson 44, and it was a dream. It's just the next level in aviation is to get the rotor endorsement, some IFR, some mountain flying, so I can go fly around the glaciers. It's just yeah, like to your point, you got to have a hobby. before I started flying planes, I can't turn my camera around, but I got a wall of RC planes. I build RC planes, and that was my fix for aviation.
Mm-hmm.
And although they're cheap to build, it was my freedom for flying at the
Yeah.
time.
How many of those did you crash?
Dude, hundreds,
I got
destroyed them.
a buddy. The reason I asked that was I got a buddy. He wanted to be a pilot, or he thought really hard about it. But at the time, he was like, well, can't afford it. Too much time right now. So he started buying, the aircrafts and building them and putting them together. And, he was crashing them left and right. And I guess his wife caught on to the amount of money he was spending. So one day we're in his shop and there was a brand new plane, sitting there with the wings off of it, ready to be put together. And she goes, "What's that?" "That's Eddie's." And I was like, she walked in the house and he goes, "I had to do that. That's like the fourth one I crashed this month." And I
Yeah.
was like,
I mean, it gets really expensive. So I for the most part, I stopped buying pre-built, ready to fly, bind and fly planes. Um, I'm a decent RC pilot, but I'm not great. And so when I crash a $300 plane, it doesn't feel good.
no.
So I learned how to make them. So I make a bunch of RC planes. I can build slow 15, 20 mile an hour 3D flight planes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one I'm looking at now. I built it does 140 miles an hour. And I spent maybe $200 on it. And if I crash
Wow.
it, I built it, so I know how to refix it. So, and then most of my other planes are like $80 all in, and they're made out of Dollar Tree foam. So I mean, I can go
Wow.
have tons of fun for a nominal expense. But I mean, in RC, you can get up to car-sized RC planes that cost you $10,000, $20,000. I mean, there's levels to the RC aviation as well.
Yeah, of
And
course.
what's strangely enough, I taught myself how to fly via YouTube. When I was truck driving, I brought all of my material and I rebuilt and built RC planes in the cab of my 18 wheeler while I was long hauling metal and sea-doos to Tennessee and Las Vegas. Like, it's just what I did. I had to have a hobby
Yeah.
while I was out.
Yeah. I love that, man. So it's pretty similar. Oh, when I decided to go big time commercial real estate, I started straight out with a fund, just like the
Mhm.
big guys, like BlackRock,
Really?
Blackstone. But I studied for like 7 years
Hmm.
on everything I could consume. And at the time, I was running a solar company and I traveled a ton. I mean, 50, 60,000 miles a year. So I was just soaking up every podcast, every YouTube video, every audio book. I was just soaking it up. I wanted to know how to be the big guys. So I studied just hard for 7 years. And we launched our first fund, $20 million in size, and went out and raised capital and went for it. But
That's
that was
awesome.
the cool part was, I had that dream. I knew that what I wanted to do, I'm like, how does the rich get so rich? How do the rich stay rich? And then how do you become a BlackRock, a Blackstone? And you quickly find out that these guys are just like me and you. They have hobbies. They have RC planes. They fly their own plane. Like they're just a guy with a dream, and they get some buddies together and they go build a fund and just go buy large real estate or doing what you're doing a debt fund. And that's the thing is you can learn this. I encourage people all the time. Look, you don't have to be stuck to the day job. Go recreate yourself. Go pivot into something else. Yeah, you failed at the first business. This next one you bought took all your time. You didn't like it. Sell it, get rid of it, close it, pivot to something else. Like you might lose it all, but they can't take your birthday away. Just keep trying till you figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, especially in real estate, I mean, there's so many niches
Yeah.
that you can just trial and error for a couple of years until you figure out which one fits your lifestyle. I mean, like just in this podcast alone, I've probably named 15 different attempts at real estate until I found one that I really liked. It's just the nature of the game. Even if you're not in real estate, I mean, the same goes for any avenue. I mean, you can find something and just enough trial and error, you'll find the one that fits you.
Yeah. My wife and I wrote an ebook here probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. It's called Raise It, Buy It, Create Wealth. And it really debunks the myth of everything. It separates assets and liabilities. And then it goes into about every way that you could possibly make money in real estate on a high level, from buying a 1 acre lot and getting utilities on it and then turn around and selling it
Hmm.
or owner financing something, renovating it, turn around and selling it, like all those different things. And it's amazing to me when somebody downloads the ebook, they're like, holy cow, I had no idea. And they're like, could you go in like in-depth detail on every one of those? Sure. If I had more time
A
to
little bit of
give
time.
that, of course I would.
Yep.
But you got to pick a niche, right? You got to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That reminds me. I gotta wrap up my book. I was gonna name it. So it's all about land investing. It's A to Z. How to
Yeah.
find the land, purchase land. Everything you need to know about to do the land business game. And I was gonna name it Dirt Rich, but there's already a land book called Dirt
I
Rich, so I had
know.
to change it up.
Yes.
And I haven't read it. I should read it because he seems like a nice guy and he's
Yeah, he
certainly
does.
knowledgeable. But we changed the name to Dirty Money
I like that.
because
That'd be a
it's
good seller.
catchy. Yeah. So we've got the graphics. We got it's nearly 100% done. I've never written a book, so I got to make sure my formatting's right, and I got to have the um, uh, anyways, the formatting is my biggest concern right now. So it's almost done, and I'll be able to launch it, and I'll probably end up doing one of those get the book for free, pay for shipping type of deals, just because land investing is it's not easy, but if you want to get into a niche of real estate that has very little risk, just like wholesaling, land is kind of one of those games you can get into because you can go buy an acre for $500 and sell for 9 grand if you're in the right markets and you know what you're doing. So it's something I wanted to do. I like giving back a little bit. So
Absolutely, man. I know I've been writing a book, a bigger book. So it's, something 6 by 9, 140 plus pages called Vision, Passion, and Purpose. Kind of the life story and kind of like going from that vision, the passion, and the purpose and your why, tying things together. Been
yeah,
writing that dude for like 3 years, but I've never
really,
wrote a book. And the imposter syndrome and everything else, all the things that block you, I've had to literally put on my calendar, which I actually just stood in the mirror and listened to myself talk, because I teach people time blocking and doing things the right way, building your calendar, manifesting. It's like, I'm gonna write this book. Okay, well, let me
hmm
see your calendar. And they're like, I'm really going to write this book because it's the most important thing in my life. Well, let me see your calendar. Where's it
right,
at? What hours of the day are you blocking to write this book and get it finished? How
yeah,
much are you working on it every week?
that's
And they're like,
exactly what happened to me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I turn around. I'm like, hey, Eddie, why don't you have your book on your calendar every week where
Hmm.
you're writing a couple hours? Break this down. Okay, it's 6 by 9. It's probably 140 pages. Well, that's probably 25,000 words. How many words can you write, in a couple hours a day? And that's how long it's going to take you. So get after it.
Yeah. Uh, I've been thinking about a book for years, and I'm like, I'm not a writer. I get asked, being somewhat visible on social media, I get asked a lot of questions, and hey, can I do a Zoom call? Can I get coffee? All those things. And so I was like, I like doing all those things, but it's pretty time consuming to accommodate everybody. So that's why the book. And I just wrapped up this week a free wholesaling course where I teach people how to wholesale. So I'll be launching that soon. And
Nice.
that's my way of captivating all of those questions while saving my time. And so those are coming out. But same deal. Like when I decided to like commit to the book, I was like, I'm gonna have it done in 3 months. 3 months rolled by, didn't start it. Okay. By the next time I go to the Investor Field Mastermind, I'll have it ready and I'll be able to show everybody. Didn't show anybody shit. So finally, I had to put on my calendar like book, book every 2 days, book. And even if I didn't get to it that time, I was a reminder like, there I go doing it again. I'm procrastinating or something.
Yep.
I allowed something else with less purpose get in my way of my book. And so the calendar is like the lifeblood of my life,
It
really.
is, man. It really is. It's the manifestation of the destination, and it's reverse engineering. Like I teach people whiteboarding and stuff. And I'm like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And they're like, well, I want to be right here. Okay. Where are you starting at? Well, I'm starting right here. Okay. Well, everything in between, that's what we need to figure out. Because if you want to be here in 5 years and you're starting here, what's the number? And we already know how long it's going to take. So we can break it down in math in 100 different ways and then figure out the niche that's going to fit that to get you to that point. So let's go do that. And then you're going to need a calendar because you're going to need to be accountable. Discipline's hard
Yeah.
continuously for
It's
sure.
tough. It's tough. Yeah. Yeah.
Any
And Sorry,
sorry,
go
you
for it.
know, anytime it seems like we try to do something really, really good in life, the resistance just creeps right in and it blocks you.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to bring up is it's the imposter syndrome that you mentioned. It's like, dude, who am I to be writing a book? Who am I to be creating a wholesale course and teaching people? Like, who's going to listen to me? And same thing when we bought this software company. I was like, dude, I don't know shit about software. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. I don't know ads. I don't know how to do email campaigns and follow ups and outreaches and all this stuff. But it's like you just take these little bites out of the apple until you get there. These little tiny steps, little mini wins. Like, oh, okay, cool. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yep. Yep. 100%, man. And, you know, the people that I looked up to and searched out in the space when I started my journey of 7 years plus of education, I didn't realize at first, you know, I was trying to become these people and I was missing something. But when I look up to these guys now and you look them up on Wikipedia, every one of them's an author. Grant Cardone, he's known as an
Mm-hmm.
author. He's known for a lot of things, but he's known as an author. Robert Kiyosaki, he's an author. You know, all these guys are authors. And it's like, yeah, if they've done great things in business, but they were known by a book that they wrote. And that's really what they tie themselves to because that's the ultimate, you know, I like to call myself more of a philanthropist now than an entrepreneur or a serial entrepreneur or all those other egotistic names because at the end of the day, I just want to buy my time back so I can just give and give and give. And yeah, it's going to make money, but that's not the first idea, of
Right.
course. I
Yeah.
love it,
No, that's
man.
awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think unfortunately it's going to lead into several more books. So I'm going to have to
Oh,
really
yeah.
dial down.
Yeah. 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 You're going to
That's
have to buy a few more opportunities that you can you know, afford to walk away from everything, get a CEO, get all the
yep.
people in the right butts and the right seats. That way
Yep.
you can just go do what you do and
Yeah.
fly up to Alaska to a cabin somewhere and just write for a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, well, now that you mention it, and I don't think you know, but, and I haven't said it publicly anyways, but we're moving to Alaska in a couple months. And
Wow.
that's, so it's funny that you mentioned that because when I started getting into this book, I was like, dude, I just need to buy a Starlink and sit in the woods for a day or two every couple of weeks and finish this damn book. But anyways, that's a little bit of a side. But yeah, we're moving to Alaska in a couple months,
Congrats,
which is
man.
the main push for us of selling the plane. I need a tail wheel. I need to go have some adventures. I need to go land on the coast or an island or
Yep.
whatever. And
So
the old 182.
you gonna get you a cub?
Well, I mean, yeah, the performance is there. I don't like the tandem seating of the Cubs. You know, I fly a lot with my wife, so I want her to be next to me. Uh, Kid Fox has always been a dream of mine, but they're pretty small. Not a lot of endurance. It may be there because it's like the dirt bike of the sky. It'd be kind of cool to have one of those. But it's likely going to end up being like a 185 or a Mall M6, M7. There's that new company, Cyclone. Have you seen the Bushliner Cyclone 180 or 185?
I have not.
Dude, I'll send it to you. They're stupid expensive. It's kind of unrealistic at the moment, but they basically took the 185 and just beefed it up.
Really?
They extended the fuselage, still got the four seating capacity, but they extended the cargo bay. Still the same 350 horsepower motor, but the performance is bar none. There's not many planes that can perform while having a useful load of
Yeah.
almost 2,000 pounds. It's nuts.
Wow.
But they want 850,000, so it's a little bit down the way to have a
Well, yeah,
little
of course.
$1 million
Man.
bush plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What part of Alaska?
We're going to be, well, in a perfect dream world, had I had all my ducks aligned right now, we'd be in a little town called Seward. It's on the coast. Population's just shy of 3,000 people. But realistically, it's just not something we're going to do right away. So we're going to be just north of Anchorage in an area called Wasilla. It's the Matsu Valley. It's one of the higher populated areas of the state, just outside of Anchorage. And so I'll be able to continue networking and building my business out there while doing land and development. And then, eventually we'll end up with a little cabin out in the middle of nowhere next to the coast and be able to take some little staycations on the weekends.
Very, very cool. So let's move into a fire round. I'm going to ask you three questions. We'll answer them as quick as you can. And then we're
Okay.
going to move into how people can find you and learn more about the things you do. There's definitely lots of things. Listen up, audience. There's lots of things that Brandon could help you with the things that he does, especially land. Anybody that knows a little bit about me, I'm a land investor myself. I like to buy land and either entitle it or find it shovel ready and then develop it and deliver home or site ready pads to national and regional home builders. That's what I love to do. I've kind of pivoted away from the multifamily right now. But on this fire round, what are you most curious about in 2025?
Shoot. Is this personal or business?
Either one, fire away, man.
Okay. We'll just keep it business related since we've talked a lot about Alaska. It's kind of like that's our thing. We're going to Alaska. That's what I'm excited about. Continuing my endeavors in the land, because you nailed it there. Land entitlement is such a huge deal that I've wanted to be in it so long, and I've done tons of zone changes, splits, entitlements, subdivisions, all of these things, either as a broker, a facilitator, or as a buyer myself, and they're just fun.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I'm going to continue down that road. In Alaska, there's plenty of land. So my goal when I get there is to do subdivisions.
Awesome. How are you implementing AI in your daily life?
Oh, man, I don't know. I just got back from a software mastermind, and the common thing was, well, AI, and how do you do it? And do you need it at all? And so I'm in that phase of, I'm sure I need it, but I don't know where. But personal or business use, we're just using Chat GPT and several other AIs like Claude, Opus, a lot of stuff for just social media and email engagement. So just the basic copyright type stuff right now with some real social media, real videos. So
Love it. Love it. So if somebody was to get started, somebody comes to you and says, man, I want to own a plane. I want to be a pilot. I want to move to Alaska. What would be the straightest path you could lay them out in about 2 minutes?
just double down and do it. Take a break, take a month off and get your license. My biggest mistake was it took me 5 years to get my license. A lot of that, well, it was all in part because I kept breaking shit on my dirt bike, so I couldn't fly. So I broke my leg in Cambodia on a dirt bike trip, so I couldn't fly for a couple of years. And then I broke my other ankle shortly after. So if you really just dial in, do your written portion simultaneously with your flying portion, that way the two knowledges don't separate themselves by the time you get to your written and check ride in your oral test. As long as you do those two simultaneously, a lot of people will separate the two. They'll start flying or they'll start the written. And by the time the tests come up, they're like, shoot, here we go. And they have to relearn it. So just double down, take a month off and really dive into it. It'd be my best advice.
Love it. Last one, straight business related. Be a two person, wants to be free from their time, buy back their time. What would you tell that person starting now?
Well, the most common theme is, well, how do I replace my income as a W 2 employee? And so you need cash flow. And how do you get cash flow? In real estate, well, you buy assets or you create notes. And so you figure out what niche you want to be in, and you go all in on it, because you don't need to do it full time to make good money. You can put together a syndication as a W 2. You can do some wholesaling. You can create land notes. You can do entitlements. You can do all of these things as a W 2. You just got to figure out what you want to do, what your risk tolerance is, what kind of capital backing you have, and just go for it.
Absolutely. Love it, man. So where can everybody find you? You've got
Shoot.
several things that can help a lot of people. Tell people about your websites, where to go. We'll put all the links inside the YouTube description below. But where can people find you?
Primarily social media. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram. Facebook is just my name, I think. Just look Brandon Richards, or The Fearless Pursuit of Freedom is what a lot of my stuff is, because that's my podcast. We have several Instagram accounts. I have my personal mixed in with a little business. That's Fearless Pursuit of Freedom. We have the Deal Manager Pro software. So that's Deal Manager Pro on Instagram. We have our nonprofit, which is Operation Freedom on Instagram. But basically, if you just search my name, you'll be able to find me. You can go to dealmanagerpro.com to look at our software for real estate investors. It's just a CRM that does comps, skip tracing, direct mail campaigns, data management, communicate with your buyers list. I mean, just about anything you need in the single family and land world of real estate investing can be found in Deal Manager Pro. Yeah, social media. That's where I'm most active, really.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Talk about your nonprofit for a minute, then. That's exciting.
Yeah. So the nonprofit, dude, it all comes back to dirt biking and flying. So long story short, I was at a mastermind. We met a dirt biker there. He invites me on a dirt bike trip. We go to Peru to raise funds for a local orphanage there. I'm like, hell
Mm.
yeah, I love this philanthropy thing. I want to give back. Then we got invited to Nigeria. We went to some orphanages there. Saw a bunch of things I didn't necessarily want to see, and this very sad. No food, no water, abuse, neglect. Everything. And so we got back. We started a nonprofit called Operation Freedom, and so currently we dig wells in Nigeria. So about once a quarter right now. If we had more funds, we'd be doing them once a week. But about once a quarter, we'll dig a new well. And on the dedication day, we'll provide food for every person in that community
Mm.
and medical attention. So we'll bring in nurses, medicines. We'll do whatever cleansing, whatever ailment they have that can be not only diagnosed and treated on site, we'll typically knock those out on dedication day of the well.
Wow, man, that's amazing. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
It means a lot. That's
I love it.
that's part of the dream is to do a lot of the mission wells and stuff like that. And we're so entitled, just like this bottle of water right here. We can see through it. And when you see that stuff online, you don't realize how good we have it here in the United States to have clean water readily at our availability. We can grow our own food. Things are so available to us. When you go over there, you're just humbled.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, most people in Nigeria don't eat meat ever. They might have one small morsel of meat a year because it's just simply unattainable. The average income there is about $20, 20 US dollars a month. And so it's just really hard for them to afford anything. So obviously they're choosing a cheaper form of nutrition, which is typically some sort of carbohydrate, potatoes, beans, rice, stuff like that. Uh, and then the water source is just horrible. I mean, it's like chocolate milk, and they don't know anything. They don't know any difference. So we're just doing our best to make just like a little dent in the problem.
Man, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And please, by all means, connect with Brandon. Definitely connect with his nonprofit and invest in that nonprofit to help bring clean water to people every single week and not every quarter. So please help us do that. I have no affiliation with it, but I'm just asking you to personally go do that because I feel like it is so important. They should deserve something like this: clean
Yeah.
water
Yep.
and be extraordinary. Go out here, start something new. That's what the BEX stand for, is be extraordinary at the end of
Thanks a lot.